Hello, my name is Michelle Cooper, and I'm the academic support coach at Cordova High School. Previously, I was an English teacher. Prior to teaching high school, I taught online college courses for about 10 years, and during that last year, I got a full-time faculty position on campus, so had to move my online courses to in-person courses, which was quite the change. Obviously, we're doing the exact opposite change here, going from in-person to virtual classroom. There are a lot of different things you can do to make it easier for yourself. So I'm doing a series of videos, and this first video has to do with setting routines in the virtual classroom to make it easier for yourself and easier for your students. I'll be approaching this video from the viewpoint of an English teacher, but the advice I give can be used across the disciplines. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Not every teacher is a whiz at technology, so for many, online teaching seems like a huge undertaking. Getting your expectations in check and setting routines for yourself and your students is key. As teachers, we all know that setting expectations and routines in the classroom are important to help students focus, and it isn't much different in the online environment. Your goal should be setting two types of routines, daily routines and weekly routines. You need routines for both yourself and your students. One thing you want to remember is that the online environment is much different than being in the classroom, and the same general guidelines are not going to apply. Time is relative. You aren't going to necessarily know how long or how much a student is working. You can only guess by the amount and quality of work they turn in. In other words, you have to let some things go. You can't stress about when they log on as long as they are logging on. That should be good enough. I would also caution in making virtual or Zoom meetings mandatory. Not everyone is going to have the same schedule now that they are home and have other responsibilities. Which brings me to my next point. Every day is kind of like a weekend. Everyone is home, no one is really getting up early, and no one has anywhere to go. These are unique times that we are teaching and learning in, so keep that in mind when setting routines. My number one piece of advice is less is more. You may have to really focus on what you can do and what they can do, or what is most important that they learn, and let the rest go. When setting routines for yourself, you obviously want to be online and available during the work week, paying careful attention to your office hours or the times you have told students you're available. You will get into a routine naturally, no doubt, but students may not, so we need to help them. Part of setting daily routines for your students is setting expectations and vocalizing those expectations. If you really want to stick with a Monday through Friday schedule, then communicate that to your students. If you want to post a daily question and expect them to log on every day, then just make sure they know. I personally like the idea of flexibility. For example, online college classes recognize the unique needs of students, so they generally ask students to log on 4 to 5 days a week to participate, and that includes weekends. You should do whatever makes you most comfortable. I know as a parent of middle school students, I appreciate that my kids don't necessarily have to log on to every single class every day to figure out what they're doing. They can kind of set their own schedule based on when I can help them. Check-ins are very important. And again, you should probably make these daily or a few days a week. And you need a minimum requirement that is communicated to students. This is especially important if you know your platform has glitches or internet access that is not always guaranteed 24/7. A discussion check is a great way to keep students coming back. They can be fun and they can be done whenever the kids can log on. I recommend using Schoology and posting a weekly discussion question. You'll need to set guidelines that you stick to. My example is that students must respond to the question once and to another comment on 3 different days throughout the week. The important thing is that you post these discussion questions on the same day in the same place every week to set the routine, and you should make them as interesting or as intriguing as possible. Definitely make them debatable when you can, so students have something to discuss. Many times you'll find that your quieter students, who you haven't heard from very much in the classroom, are suddenly not as shy on a computer, which is a nice change of pace. Another way to set the routine and provide a daily check-in is with weekly riddles. You can put these right up before the weekly assignments, and students usually look forward to answering them. You may even consider making it a bit competitive or having some area of the classroom where students can get points. Kids of all ages love to compete. The most important thing to remember is that you want to make this easy on yourself. Don't commit to posting riddles every morning if you know you're not going to stick to it. Once weekly discussion questions may work better. Then you can pop onto those discussions when you have a moment to respond, ask questions, and to move the conversation along. If you choose to have assignments or some other type of question that students have to answer every single day, just remember to stay consistent. I actually don't recommend going this route because it's a lot of work on everyone, but either way, stick to whatever you decide so students are not surprised later on. By far, the easiest way to tackle online teaching is to give your students a list of assignments at the beginning of the week, whether it's Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, and make them all due on the same day every week. Just make sure you are consistent again when posting the list. Here's an example. Remember, your students are going to do better if they know your expectations up front. You also want to keep in mind that they have several other classes with different expectations. If it works in a particular class, you might also want to break up the week into very specific skills that they practice on certain days. This is a great idea if you can consistently stick to it throughout the remainder of the school year. It's easier on them and it's easier on you. But again, it may or may not work for your particular class. Another way to approach it is using learning targets every week or every day of the week. If you already use something similar in your classroom, this may be the way to go. I know no teacher has extra time, but if you're a teacher that finds yourself with extra time, or you really want to give your students enrichment activities to keep them busy, you can have two sections of your classroom. One dedicated to assignments they have to complete and one dedicated to assignments they can complete. This can be as simple as posting short fiction or poems or giving them some creative writing prompts to flex their mind and creative skills. Obviously, this is by no means necessary, and you should only take it on if you have the time. I'm sure I don't have to say this, but you need to be flexible in this type of environment. When I taught online college classes, the students chose online coursework and knew what to expect. Our students are teenagers who do not have a choice, and they may be intimidated or they may be home needing help with parents who are not available to help them. You have to be very self-driven to do well in the online environment, and some students are not. If they are trying, then work with them as much as you can. Part of a good routine for both teachers and students is to communicate when students can expect feedback. If you let students know you'll be giving them feedback on their work only once a week, then you'll get less questions about grades. Some teachers like to give feedback every day, and that is great. But if you want to focus on grading and comments only on Monday mornings, for example, just make sure your students know. Obviously, if you have ongoing weekly discussions, you'll want to participate in regularly. Clearly, students may have questions as they complete assignments. If you have a chance, create a commonly asked questions post so you can anticipate their questions. You can post questions and answers to avoid having to answer a million emails per day. The biggest thing you can take away today is to be consistent, strive for simplicity, and to be flexible. This is a new environment for everyone, and by setting routines for your students, you are making this easier on them. I hope you have enjoyed this short video and found it helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions or you may comment below. Thank you.